Suzuka, Japan, October the 22nd, 1989. The chicane. One moment. The front wheels of two McLarens touch at racing speed, and the crowd holds its breath for less than a second before everything changes. Alain Prost climbs out of his car, walks calmly to the side of the track, and does not look back. Ayrton Senna somehow restarts his engine, wins the race, and celebrates as if the title is his. Then comes the disqualification. Then comes the phone calls, the press conferences, the verdicts delivered before anyone checked the rule book. By the time the sun set over Suzuka that night, the judgment was already printed, broadcast, and repeated in 5 languages. Prost was the villain. Prost had done it again. Prost had stolen something that did not belong to him. What the headlines did not say, and what this story is about, is that it was not the first time they had said it, and it would not be the last. But here is the fact that no headline ever put on the front page. Every single driver the press called a hero. Every single one of them. Lost to Alain Prost. Everyone. If what you just heard made you want to keep listening, stay with this story until the end. Because what happened to Alain Prost over 13 years in Formula One is one of the most precise injustices in the history of sport. And the numbers have been sitting there in plain sight the whole time. Go back to the beginning. Go back to 1981, a young Frenchman driving for Renault, a team that carries an entire nation's expectation on its bodywork at every home race. Alain Prost wins his first Grand Prix at the French Grand Prix in Dijon-Prenois that season. He wins again in the Netherlands. He wins again in Italy. The French press calls him a hero. The international press calls him promising. Nobody calls him anything complicated yet. That comes later, when he starts winning against the people they have already decided to love more than him. By 1983, Prost is at McLaren, fighting Nelson Piquet for the World Championship with a car that has real pace but fragile reliability. He goes into the final race in South Africa with a chance. His turbo fails. Piquet wins the title by 2 points. The press mourns Piquet's brilliance. Nobody stops to count how many races Prost had won to be that close in the first place. Then comes 1984 and the story that set the template for everything that followed. Niki Lauda, triple world champion, survivor of a fire at the Nürburgring in 1976 that burned away part of his face and nearly took his life, beloved figure of the sport, a man whose very existence at a racing circuit was considered a form of courage. Lauda was the hero of that season. The press said so repeatedly, and Prost, his McLaren teammate, was beating him race after race after race. Prost won 7 Grands Prix in 1984. Lauda won 5. By any measure of racing performance in a single season, Prost was the faster driver. But the championship was not decided by wins alone. It was decided by points accumulated across all rounds. And when the season reached its final race in Portugal, Lauda needed to finish second, and did exactly that. While Prost won, Lauda became world champion by half a point. The smallest margin in Formula One history. Not 1 point, not 2, half a point. The story of that margin begins at Monaco, in June of that same year. Heavy rain, a 45-minute delay before the start, and a race that rapidly turned into something no one had properly planned for. Prost was leading, coming through the field at a pace that seemed to belong to a different category of physics, was Ayrton Senna, a 24-year-old rookie in a Toleman with a 4-cylinder Hart engine, who had started 13th on the grid. Senna was closing at 3 and 4 seconds per lap. The gap was disappearing. On lap 29, Prost began waving his arm out of the cockpit, gesturing to the stewards to stop the race. The stewards did not stop it. He waved again on lap 31. And then, on lap 32, the red flag appeared, shown by race director Jackie Ickx, who was at that time a contracted works driver for Porsche in sports car racing. Prost's engine was built by Porsche. The result was counted back to lap 31, where Prost was still leading. He was declared the winner. He received half points because the race had not completed 75% of its scheduled distance. Those 4.5 points, instead of the 6 he would have received from a second-place finish, had the race run to proper distance, cost him the championship by the end of the year. The press called Ickx a conspirator. They called Prost a beneficiary. What they did not say was that Prost lost more from Monaco than he gained, and that the hero they mourned that day, Senna, had not yet won a single race. Prost had already won 31. But none of that mattered in the narrative. The hero had been denied, and the villain had a French accent and an expression that the cameras always caught at the wrong moment. 1985. Prost wins his first world championship, defeating Ferrari's Michele Alboreto by 20 points. Nobody calls it a controversy. There is no hero to mourn. The press moves on quickly. 1986. Williams and McLaren, the two fastest cars in the field, locked in a season that goes to the final race in Adelaide. Nigel Mansell, the British Lion, brave and theatrical and beloved by an entire nation, needs to finish third to win the title. A tire blows at nearly 300 kilometers per hour. Mansell survives, returns to the pits, and watches as Prost wins the championship by 2 points. The British press puts Mansell on every cover. The tragedy of the deflating tire fills entire pages. Prost's name appears in the results column, cold and administrative, as if victory were a clerical error. Mansell was the hero. Prost was the accountant. 1987. Nigel Mansell again, this time with a dominant Williams car, crashes in qualifying in Japan and misses the final 2 races. Nelson Piquet takes the title by a narrow margin. Prost finishes 4th in the championship in a McLaren that is no longer the best car on the grid. Nobody is looking at him this year, but they are about to. 1988. Ayrton Senna arrives at McLaren as Prost's teammate. The team that season wins 15 of 16 Grands Prix. It is the most dominant single-team performance in the history of the sport up to that point. Prost wins 7 races. Senna wins 8. Under the points system of that era, only a driver's 11 best results count toward the championship standings. Prost actually outscores Senna across the full season by 11 points. But under the rules that apply, Senna takes the title by 3 points. Prost is the fastest driver in the world alongside Senna, and he knows it, and the numbers say it. The press says Senna is a genius, and Prost is political. 1989. The season builds like a structure designed to collapse at a specific moment. Prost and Senna are still teammates, and the relationship has curdled into something that requires no translation. Prost has publicly stated he believes Honda, which supplies their engines, is favoring Senna. Senna has publicly stated that FISA President Jean-Marie Balestre is favoring Prost. Both accusations carry weight. Neither driver trusts the other across a garage that is 6 meters wide. At Suzuka, in the penultimate race of the season, Senna dives inside Prost at the chicane. Prost closes the door. They collide. Prost retires. Senna gets a push start, takes a new nose cone, wins the race, and celebrates. The disqualification comes hours later. Senna is excluded for cutting the chicane and for accepting a push start, both of which are against the regulations. Prost is world champion. The fine that accompanies Senna's disqualification is $100,000. The press calls it a theft. They call it politics. They call Balestre a puppet and Prost the hand inside it. What they do not say is that the regulations were clear, that the stewards applied them, and that a driver who makes a move that results in a collision and then uses an illegal restart does not have an automatic right to the victory that follows. Prost did not make the rules. He just benefited from them being applied. 1990. Prost is now at Ferrari. Senna is at McLaren. The title race goes to Suzuka again. This time, at the start of the race, at the very first corner, Senna drives his car deliberately into Prost's at full acceleration. Both cars are out. Senna is world champion because his points lead from the rest of the season is enough to survive the zero that comes from the collision. Senna admitted years later that the crash was intentional. He called it retribution for 1989. The press reported the controversy. They debated sportsmanship. Very few of them asked what kind of hero deliberately rams another driver off the road at racing speed to win a championship. 1991. Ferrari's car is unreliable. Prost is publicly critical of the team. Ferrari fires him before the final race of the season. Prost takes a year away from racing. 1993. He returns with Williams, which has the most technologically advanced car in Formula One history. The FW15C with active suspension and traction control is a machine that makes everything around it look slow. Prost wins 7 races, starts every single qualifying session from the front row, all 16 of 16. A record that, as of this moment in history, is still shared only with Senna himself from 1989 and Damon Hill from 1996. He wins his 4th World Championship. He retires at the end of the year. Senna, the man who was brought in to replace him at Williams the following season, dies at Imola on the 1st of May, 1994. Alain Prost was a pallbearer at Ayrton Senna's funeral. 51 Grand Prix victories, 4 World Championships, teammate to 5 world champions, and he beat every single one of them when it mattered. Niki Lauda, the survivor. Nelson Piquet, the tactician. Nigel Mansell, the warrior. Keke Rosberg, the champion. Damon Hill, the heir. Ayrton Senna, the saint. All of them were, at various points, the hero the press needed the story to have. All of them lost to the same man, not because Prost was lucky, not because of politics, though politics existed everywhere in that paddock and always has, but because Alain Prost was, across 13 seasons of the most demanding form of motorsport on Earth, the most complete racing driver of his generation. A man who understood that winning as slowly as possible is not cowardice. It is mastery. A man whose intelligence was so visible it made people uncomfortable, because intelligence without spectacle does not make good television. The press needed a villain to make the heroes shine brighter. Prost was available. He was cold where Senna was warm. He was French where the sports audience wanted English or Brazilian or German. He explained his victories in technical terms when the cameras wanted tears and fists and God. So they cast him, and he played the part for 13 years. And then he went home with 4 world championships and the quiet satisfaction of a man who never needed the narrative to know what the numbers already said. 4 titles, 51 wins. Every hero they built, he dismantled. Not once, not twice. Every single time. The verdict was always the same, and it was always wrong.